What's good, combat sports fans? You already know it's your boy Bando back at it with a fresh episode. I am coming through with an episode about UFC 306, but we're playing Matchmaker again. I told you when we're doing these big cards, I'm going to come through right after with the matchmaking episode. So let's play Matchmaker. Let's get right into it. Let's go. Alright, so obviously I'm just going to keep it on the main card, keep it pretty simple with the main card. And opening the main card was Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Ode Osbourne. Ronaldo Rodriguez got the win. Fantastic fight. You already know I talked about that in the breakdown or in the review, but fantastic fight. But I was thinking of different fights that we could really think. The flyweight division, right? We sit back and we don't think of it as being as stacked as it could be, right? But there's a lot of depth in there. There's a lot of guys in that division. So when I was looking through the rankings, I was like, shit, man, it's hard to choose. So for Ode Osbourne, now after losing this past weekend, that's 3 fights in a row. He is on a 3-fight losing skid. He needs a win. There is another guy in the flyweight division who is also on a 3-fight losing skid, who needs a win, who just lost recently as well, and that is Malcolm Gordon. If you put Ode Osbourne versus Malcolm Gordon up, I guarantee you will have a very, very explosive first round, and I guarantee you will have a finish. I don't see that fight going to the decision. You know, Ode is extremely quick, man. He's got some quick hands. He's very quick, very snappy with his punches. He leaves openings for guys to counter, like Tyson Nam did, caught him with that overhand right when he threw that flying knee. There's certain things you just, you see, and he does have openings, but he fought well in this past fight. I just think that him and Malcolm Gordon, they both need a win. Coming off of 3 losses apiece, you each got to get a win. Someone's got to get a win. You obviously know how the UFC plays out sometimes. If you're 3, 4, 5 fights in and you're not like a big name, or 3, 4 fight like losing streak, they're gonna cut you. So those two both need a win. Then you talk about Ronaldo Rodriguez. Obviously, he got the win this Saturday, so you need to elevate. You need to get the guy to move up, but he's just starting out. There's not much to push him into, right? There's not a lot of guys in the division that you're just gonna throw him to, right? You gotta kind of pace it. And I was thinking of maybe you get a guy. There's a lot of guys who have fights booked. So a lot of the options that I was looking at, they have fights booked. But I would say you can go with Bruno Silva for this one. If you go with Bruno Silva, he's only got 1 loss, and you can keep it on some sort of maybe like the next Brazilian card or something like that. I don't know how far off we are from the next Brazil card, but you could do something like that. Both guys are trying to make the come up in the division, make a name for themselves. I think Ronaldo Rodriguez has more of a explosive style, very exciting, very fast-paced style. But you typically all flyweights do. Usually all flyweights do have a heavy pace, very fast pace. Like, that's just how they fight naturally. So, but I think that would be a good fight, and like I said, you could put it on some sort of Brazil card or something like that. Moving on, the second fight of the night was Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovics. I can't say it, bro. Like, I literally can't say his name correctly. I don't know why. I don't fucking know why. But obviously, fight of the night, fantastic fight. We talked about this already. But now, who do these guys go up against? Now, it's like when you're matchmaking for Daniel Zellhuber, you don't have to matchmake him super low just because he didn't get the decision win for this one. It was a split decision win that went into Esteban's favor, but at the same time, it was such a good, explosive back and forth fight that could have went either way. You don't have to just throw him some trash. Now, you could still keep him up and try to have him fighting somebody who has some relevance, right? So if you put him up against somebody like, let's see who I had over here. I forgot. Nasrat. You put him up against Nasrat. Nasrat's coming off of a win. If I remember correctly, I think it said he's coming off of a win. But it's a good stylistic matchup, right? Nasrat, he has more in the game of mixing it up, right? He might mix a little bit of wrestling in there. He might mix some grappling in there. And we don't know what Daniel Zellhuber holds on the grappling side. Is he good off his back? Does he have any ground game at all? Can he get back up? What's the situation, right? And it's not like Nasrat is going to shoot, take him down. He's not that type of wrestler. He's just somebody who mixes the game up pretty well, right? And he's also a heavy hitter who's not afraid to scrap. So I think that would be a pretty exciting fight. And you're talking about a lightweight division. A lightweight division is so entirely stacked. How do you continue to build guys, right? It's hard to build guys because in this division, this is the type of division where you can't take a guy who is under 15 and put him up against somebody in the top 10. It doesn't work. Usually guys don't explode like that in the lightweight division. It takes time, years of putting in the work. I mean, look at how long it took Dustin Poirier to get to the position he's in, Charles Oliveira to get to the position he's in, right? Islam Makhachev, same thing. Like, it took these guys a long time to get to the position they're in because it is the most stacked division, right? So you gotta, it's a slow elevation, right? And Daniel Zellhuber, I think he's 27 years old, 26 years old. I might be wrong. He might even be younger, but he's extremely talented and he can put on exciting fights. Him and Nasrat would be a great fight. And then obviously Esteban Ribovics got the win. Very exciting as well, right? Very exciting. We saw it. These two guys really put on an absolute banger. That's what we call a banger in the combat sports world. That was a banger, right? But there was a guy on the prelims who I'm surprised was on the prelim because you could have put him on the main card, right? He's at the same level as these other guys, right? Ignacio Bahamondes. And that's the fight to make right there. Esteban Ribovics and Ignacio Bahamondes. That's what to do right there. You're looking at a good striking matchup, and you're looking at a very similar matchup to him and Daniel Zellhuber. The only difference is, I think Ignacio Bahamondes has the one-punch knockout power to be able to finish. Not that Zellhuber doesn't have the knockout power, but he's somebody in there that's going to be landing more volume than he is power. So I think Ignacio Bahamondes is definitely going to land with more power. But I think that would be a very explosive matchup. Again, you want to elevate these guys, but sometimes when you put on a matchup like that and it is so fun, you try to keep it on the same type of, you don't want to end up throwing this guy in with somebody that is just going to shoot on him consistently, hold him down. Who knows? Ribovics might have a fantastic ground game. I don't know. But you don't want to put a guy that you're watching be an exciting fighter into a boring fight. So, Esteban Ribovics versus Ignacio Bahamondes. Make that one happen. Moving on, you have Brian Ortega went up against Diego Lopez. Brian unfortunately couldn't get the win. What's next for Brian Ortega? You have a couple options with Brian Ortega, right? I got the matchup set for 145, right? But if you don't choose 145, he can go up to 155. Who knows what matchups can be made, but he doesn't have to make the weight cut. He can just go up and find something because, like I said, lightweight division is extremely stacked. But if you're going to keep at the featherweight division, right, he's going to clean up the weight cut a little bit like that and stuff. You got to go up against a guy who is going to be easier. Here's the shitty part. In the featherweight division, there is nobody that's easy, right? Brian has fought all the tough opponents that you could fight, and then you continue to look, right? You look at guys that are in the top 10. There is no easy fight in the top 10. There is no bounce back fight in the top 10. And it's very hard for a guy that's ranked number 3, number 4, number 5 to shoot down and fight somebody below 10, right? No, usually guys don't want to do that. I don't see Brian wanting to do that. I'm gonna see Brian wanting to snap right back up. But he's already fought Yair, he's fought Volkanovski, he's fought Holloway, right? So what do you do? He loses Diego Lopez and loses his number 3 slot. Diego Lopez is now ranked number 3. So where do you put Brian Ortega in this? Where do you end up giving him a matchup? The only other people I see that would make sense is either Calvin Kattar or Arnold Allen. Those are the 2 fights that make most sense to me, right? Obviously, like I said, Brian's been in wars, and both of those would be wars again. But I rather those ones than him going up against a guy like Josh Emmett, because that's the other option, right? Maybe you can go up against Giga, but you look at Josh Emmett as the other option, right? You just saw him get rocked by Diego Lopez in the first round. If the weight cut is bothering him and Josh Emmett clips him, it's over with. It's over with. He's going to sleep, right? I get it. Brian has a fantastic chin, but if that weight cut is a problem and you fight a guy like Josh Emmett, you're going to sleep. So you have a better chance of scrapping out with Calvin Kattar. Calvin could end up being a slow starter, right? So you can end up putting in some good work. You guys could have a more slow-paced fight. It might not be as crazy as expected, right? Arnold Allen, he brings the heat. So as soon as somebody brings the heat to Brian, Brian's got to bring it back. But I think Arnold would take that one, personally. That's just how I feel on that one. You could also even throw Dan Ige in there, right? You saw Dan Ige step up on short notice to take on Diego Lopez a few pay-per-views ago. 4 hours notice. 4 hours notice. You might as well make a fight like that. Brian Ortega and Dan Ige is not a bad matchup either. But I think Dan Ige did get announced for a matchup. I could be wrong, but I feel like he got announced for a matchup recently. But then you talk about Diego Lopez. Who does Diego Lopez fight? Diego Lopez just wants to fight for the belt now. He wants to go straight up. That would be one of the quickest rises in the featherweight division that we have seen. That is extremely fast, right? I'm talking about fighting less fights than Conor McGregor. Actually, no. Now that I think about it, he's fought, 6 fights? That was the 6th fight? Either way, he's fought a lot. And he's fought a lot this year, right? He's been very active. He wants a shot at the title. Max Holloway is obviously next up next month. It's either going to be Max or Ilya. Is Diego next? Or does somebody run it back with Volk again? Right? If Max wins, depending on how Max wins, right, and there's no rematch or anything like that, Max and Diego would make more sense than Max and Volk, unfortunately. I know everybody would want to see Volk back in there and get the belt and everything like that, but Max and Volk don't make no sense at all now. Right? Even if Max gets the belt, he's just the one calling the shots. But Max and Diego make sense. Now, if Ilya wins, Ilya can, pick and choose. What does he want to do? Does he want to fight Diego Lopez? Does he want to fight Alexander Volkanovski? Right? Does he want to wipe the Volkanovski the slate completely clear and not have to deal with any Volkanovski talk anymore? Or does he take the next up and comer and take on Diego Lopez? That's a good question, right? I think Diego Lopez and Volk would be the matchup to make. But here's the crazy thing. Diego Lopez jumped the line. He really, really did jump the line. He jumped over guys like Calvin Kattar. He jumped over guys like Giga. Jumped over guys like Arnold Allen. Jumped over guys like, I guess you can say Lerone Murphy too, because he's undefeated, but he's not exciting. He's not as exciting. He didn't have those explosive matchups like Diego Lopez did, and he didn't rise and take fights as quick as Diego Lopez did. Diego Lopez is a company man without even speaking like any English or doing anything to do what the normal UFC company man would be, right? He is a company man. So he's out there accepting fights against whoever, and he wants the title shot. It's either going to be Volk or the title shot. This one I'm just going to skim through, right? I hated this matchup. I hated this fight so much. I didn't even want to see this fight happen again. But obviously you had Valentina and Alexa. They went, you can consider this over with, right? If you're not going to do Alexa and Valentina 4, because of the draw and everything like that. I know it can be a possibility. But if you don't do Alexa and Valentina 4, you do Alexa versus Macy Barber, and you do Valentina versus Mano Fiorot. It's as simple as that, right? Mano's obviously the next up-and-comer. She's got a lot of talent. A lot of people think if that fight can stay standing, it'd be interesting. But guess what? Valentina would probably do the exact same thing she did in this last fight and just take her down consistently. Could Mano get back up? Maybe, but she's got some damaging strikes. And I think her range management and stuff like that is a little bit different than Alexa's. She's good with her kicks. It could be an interesting fight, but I think that's the fight to make next for the championship. And then if you're talking about Alexa Grasso, her and Macy Barber would probably be a fantastic fight. I don't know why I feel like they fought already. I could be wrong. Maybe they did fight already. I couldn't find it for some reason, but if they did, correct me if I'm wrong, but they could run that back now. Macy Barber's been sitting in that number 4 slot, but really hasn't had a fight in a little while. She kind of needs something. So that would be a good fight. Or even though Rose got booked, her Alexa and Rose would be good. You got options. You got options in that division. A couple women are booked right now, but you do have options in that division for Alexa. But the main focus would be on the champion now. So if it's not going to be Valentina and Alexa 4, it's got to be Valentina and Mano. And then the main event, Merab and Sean. Yerp. So no matchup for Sugar Sean because he's going to be out for 6 months because he has a hip problem. Has to get surgery, so not going to see nothing from him. But I guess in 6 months you can talk about him and Corey Sandhagen. You know Corey Sandhagen will sit out for 6 months, no doubt, and then he'll fight a random fight out of nowhere. So yeah, you could do Sean O'Malley and Corey Sandhagen now. Everybody wanted to see it before. I'm sure people still want to see it now. I'd like to see it. It would definitely be a striking spectacle. It would either be really, really exciting or extremely freaking boring. And I'm not talking about exciting in like BMF style, scrapping exciting. Just the fact that these guys would be on the feet. It would be almost like Izzy versus Anderson Silva style exciting, right? Not like a fantastic fight or a fantastic, anything like dudes aren't getting wobbled and all that kind of stuff, but you see some cool shit, they land some cool shit. I think it would be like that. So you could do Sean and Corey when the 6 months is up. For Merab's got options in my opinion, right? Everybody's saying Umar. Umar makes the most sense stylistically, right? Umar really hasn't put in that much work to get the title shot either. It would be a faster rise to the title shot than Diego Lopez is getting at featherweight, right? Umar's beaten guys, but who are you talking about name-wise that he's beaten besides Corey Sandhagen in a decision? So, not that I disagree with people, right? I want to see that fight too. I think Umar is talented, and a lot of people want to see him just elevated that quickly, right? And it's a tough fight. It's a tough fight. Stylistically, you got a guy that can wrestle on probably the same level as Merab and stuff the takedowns of Merab and make him pay for it type of thing, right? But if you're not talking Umar, you got another guy who just put in 2 back-to-back fantastic wins at bantamweight and is a former flyweight champion in Davison Figueiredo. Merab called out Figgy and said that's the fight he wants next. I don't see why it would, it would be a bad thing. Why not? Give Figgy the fight. Give him the fight. He's a former champion, right? Former 2-time champion, technically. So, former 2-time champion. Got 2 fantastic wins against top guys in the division, right? He goes and beats Rob Font. Goes and beat Marlon Vera, right? And he won decisively, type of thing. Very decisive. I think Davison Figueiredo is the type of guy who can cause static for a person like Merab. Even though we know Merab is just going to shoot. We already know Figgy is much better off his back than Sean O'Malley is. So it will make it much more interesting. And I can see Figgy definitely causing static for the man. So I would say either Merab and Figgy. And if it's not Merab and Figgy, then you do Merab and Umar. And while that's going on the same exact card, you can do Petr Yan versus Figgy, and that's your number one contender, right? You gotta have fun with it. You gotta mix it up. Sometimes UFC's gotta get into like a little tournament style shit. It's not the worst idea if you throw 3 or 4 of the same division fights on a card and kind of make it seem like a tournament, even if it's not a tournament. But yep, I just wanted to come through with a little matchmaking episode, because I told you guys I would start doing matchmaking episodes. So that's what I did. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you didn't, I don't know why you didn't. Actually, matter of fact, tell me why you didn't. But if you did, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification button so you know when the next episode is out. Share this with a friend. Share the next episode when it comes out. And on that next episode is when your boy Bando will catch you. Peace. I don't know why I talk so weird on here sometimes, but I just do.